Today, let's talk about Belgium, the country that's the lifeblood of Europe's battery industry in Antwerp. So, with the current rare earth controls, why is it said that Belgium is the first to be hit? Friends, let me ask you a question first. Do you know where the European Union headquarters is? It's right in the place we're talking about today, Belgium. You might only know that fries, waffles, the Smurfs, and the mannequin peas come from Belgium, but this country is arguably Europe's most paradoxical existence. Like the internet you use, it has its genes. The fries you eat, it invented them. Even the adventures of Tintin you read, it created that too. But this country, which seems capable of creating everything, somehow failed to create a language of its own. Think about it, a tiny country of only 30,000 square kilometers, smaller than our Hainan Island, has managed to get 27 European nations to willingly place their greatest brains here. Belgium, a country without a single diamond mine, actually monopolizes 80% of the world's diamond trade. A place that doesn't produce a single cocoa bean has somehow become synonymous with the world's chocolate. What's even more mind-boggling is that while the French were still dreaming of Napoleon, the Germans were trembling under historical burdens, and the Italians were reminiscing about the Roman Empire's glory, Belgium, this European nobody, quietly became the home of the EU and NATO headquarters, with thousands of international organizations setting up camp here. But despite being such a hidden champion of Europe, it's facing an unprecedented shock today. Europe is now pushing hard for independence in the battery and new energy industries, but its key raw materials are still held by China. As rare earth export policies tighten and waste flows are restricted, Belgium, the core of Europe's supply chain, is bearing the brunt of the first wave. Today, we're going to talk about Belgium, a place with no major factories that nonetheless holds the entire European industry by the throat. Now, Belgium isn't large, but its geographical location is absolutely critical. If you open a map of Europe now, you'll see that Belgium's location is practically a masterpiece of divine planning. To Belgium's east is Germany, which once swept across Europe. To the west is France, the so-called flower of Europe. To the north is the Netherlands, the coachman of the seas. And to the south lies the filthy rich Luxembourg. Think about it, in such a geographical layout, surrounded by rivals and under pressure from all sides, any other country would have become a punching bag long ago. But Belgium somehow played a bad hand and came out with a winning streak. So how did Belgium pull it off? Actually, in terms of Chinese philosophy, it comes down to 8 words: go with the flow and exercise soft power. Belgium has a nickname in Europe, Europe's public bathhouse. It means whenever a country comes through, they try to get a piece of the action. Like when the Romans arrived, it obediently became a Roman province. When Spain came, it was a loyal colony. When the French showed up, it followed the rules as French territory. And when the Dutch arrived, it suddenly became their junior partner. This go-with-the-flow attitude is exactly what turned Belgium into Europe's ultimate mediator. Belgians understand one thing. When you can't change the rules of the game, you find another way to make yourself an indispensable player. It's this underdog philosophy that has allowed Belgium to become the connector of Europe. And the Port of Antwerp is the very heart of that connection. Antwerp is one of Europe's largest hubs for chemicals and energy logistics. Huge amounts of battery raw materials, chemicals, and critical metals enter Europe through here. Think of it this way. Germany is the manufacturing hub, France is the core of industrial transition, and Belgium is the gateway and distribution point for the entire supply chain. If this distribution point gets blocked, it doesn't just affect one country, it impacts the entire European industrial system. Now, let's talk about the link between rare earths and batteries. Why have rare earths become so critical on the global stage? Because rare earths directly impact electric vehicles, batteries, and energy systems. As we mentioned in the France video, permanent magnet motors require neodymium and dysprosium. Battery production also heavily relies on critical materials and chemical processing. The issue is that China already controls about 60% of global rare earth mining and over 85% of the world's refining capacity. This means Europe can build all the factories at once, but it still needs to import critical materials from China. The heart of the supply chain isn't at the consumer end, it's upstream. During my trip to Belgium, I made a point to visit the Port of Antwerp. Just how big is it? Standing on the observation deck, looking out at the endless rows of containers, massive cranes, and constant flow of cargo ships, you literally can't see where it ends. As trade professionals, we know that over 30% of the cargo handled by Antwerp each year comes from China. A huge portion of that consists of vital battery materials, chemicals, and critical metals. What does this mean? It means Antwerp is the first stop for many of the critical raw materials China exports to Europe. But in 2024, things changed at this vital port because China tightened its controls on rare earth exports once again. Meanwhile, the European Union is also restricting the export of battery waste and critical materials. On the surface, it's about environmental protection and resource security, but the result is that the flow of materials has become even more restricted. With this policy, resource exports are tightening on one end, while recycled materials can no longer circulate freely on the other. The supply chain has abruptly shifted from an open system to a regionalized one. For Belgium, this is a massive shock. While in Antwerp, I visited a battery materials trading company that's been in the chemical trade for over 20 years. They gave me a very specific example of what's happening in Belgium right now. He said that before 2026, importing refined rare earth products from China was very smooth. But this year, China has tightened export controls, so our delivery cycles have lengthened and prices have risen. What's more, even the EU itself has introduced new regulations, restricting the export of battery waste. So with tightening imports and restricted exports, it's a double squeeze. The open system of the supply chain is being artificially welded shut. The reality he shared with me is that their company's inventory is shrinking while orders are piling up, but raw materials just aren't arriving. Customers are pushing every day, and their sales team is constantly apologizing. As we all know, Belgium's advantage lies in chemical and material processing. However, these industries are highly dependent on stable supply systems. When raw materials fluctuate wildly, the entire industry chain takes a hit. In the short term, it's rising material costs. In the medium term, it's supply chain instability. And in the long run, the industrial landscape is set to shift. Local warehouse managers told me that the vacancy rate in Belgian warehouses is much higher than before. Previously, goods were moved out as soon as they arrived, but now many are stuck in customs or just don't show up at all. These goods are mainly chemicals and battery materials. They used to come from China, but now fewer and fewer are arriving. This is the reality of Belgium in 2026. It serves as Europe's windpipe, but now this windpipe is being squeezed from both ends. Changes like this aren't just happening in Europe. The global supply chain is undergoing a restructuring. Chinese companies are expanding overseas, Europe is looking for alternative resources, and the United States is pushing a critical mineral strategy. All countries are actually doing the same thing, which is reducing dependency. But the reality is that the supply chain cannot be completely independent. It can only be redistributed. Efficiency decreases, costs rise, but security increases. This is the new logic of global trade. Now let's talk about where the risks and opportunities lie for our Chinese factories and foreign trade professionals. As usual, let's start with the risks. The biggest risk among them is the decline in logistics efficiency. The Port of Antwerp is one of Europe's most important gateways. If customs clearance slows down and inventory turnover cycles lengthen, costs will rise. I met a Chinese boss exporting chemicals at a trade fair in Frankfurt. He said that previously, our goods arriving in Antwerp could clear customs within a week, but now it takes 3 weeks or even longer. Customers are definitely not satisfied, and it's a huge headache for us too. Another very important risk is the current policy uncertainty. The European Union is tightening its management of critical materials, and there may be more restrictions in the future. This is a significant challenge for Chinese companies that rely on the European market. So, what are the opportunities that we foreign trade professionals can seize? The opportunity lies in battery recycling and the circular economy. Antwerp has many battery recycling plants. These plants specialize in extracting critical materials like lithium, cobalt, and nickel from waste batteries, then reprocessing them to sell back to battery manufacturers. The factory manager told me that Europe now places great importance on the circular economy because relying on imports is too unstable. They really want to keep waste raw materials in Europe and recycle them internally. For our Chinese manufacturing industry, if you can provide battery recycling technology and equipment or related services, there is a lot of room for you in the European market. There's also a hidden opportunity, and that's localized warehousing and logistics. In Antwerp today, there are many Chinese logistics companies. They're setting up local warehouses there to specifically serve Chinese businesses exporting to Europe. Since logistics efficiency in Europe is currently declining, many companies are seeking localized solutions. By building these warehouses, we can help customers solve that last mile problem. This model of localized service will become increasingly important in the future. Finally, let's talk about Belgium's attitude toward Made in China. In a Brussels supermarket, I saw so many Chinese products. From appliances to toys, clothes to daily necessities, they have everything. The feedback from most Belgians is that Chinese goods are affordable and high quality. Most items in their homes are actually made in China. This penetration of Chinese manufacturing is very common in Belgium and many other European countries. However, Belgian government officials have been expressing concern about China's control over critical materials. Especially with rare earths, lithium, and cobalt, China has a major say in the global market. If China were to ever restrict those exports, the entire European industry could come to a complete standstill. This wariness reflects the true mindset of both Belgium and Europe as a whole. They depend on China, yet they fear being held back by China at every turn. To wrap up my thoughts on this trip to Belgium, first, though small, it's the heart and veins of Europe. Logistics and chemicals are the lifeblood of this country. Second, Belgium's current dilemma is that as a middle link, it's most vulnerable to supply chain shifts. It's caught in the middle, which is quite suffocating. Third, for Chinese exporters, the risk is declining logistics efficiency, but battery recycling and localized services are the opportunities. Fourth, the Belgian attitude toward China is one of dependence mixed with caution. We must prepare for a long-term strategic game. A middle link, like Belgium, which relies on stable supply, is the easiest to tear apart precisely because it connects everything. Belgium's 200-year survival philosophy teaches us that when you can't change the rules, you must make yourself the most indispensable player. This principle applies just as much to our international trade business. All right, that's it for Belgium. Next time, let's talk about the Netherlands, the country that builds the world's best lithography machines. What Achilles heel will it face in 2026? I'll tell you in the next episode.